Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Boxing. I'm Leti.
I'm LB.
And let's get into one of our predictions that's going to happen this weekend.
Let's get it.
So we have Michel Rivera out of the Dominican Republic.
AKA Muhammad Ali reincarnated.
There you go.
That's what he called himself.
There you go. Versus Frank Martin out of Indiana.
AKA the Ghost. Let's go.
Let's go. Okay, so we just got done watching the press conference.
Yeah.
And anything stood out to you?
I'm going to just say this. The thing that sticks out to me is how confident
Michel
in themselves
Rivera?
both fighters, how confident both fighters are coming into this fight. And so I'm excited because, even like Michel Rivera said in the press conference, he goes, yeah, the fact that we're both this confident, that means the fans are in line for something great.
I mean, when aren't they confident though? When aren't the boxers confident on the press conference? To me, what's that? Michel Rivera's confidence. He seemed really confident. Like, look, I'm gonna win this fight. I'm just a better boxer.
Yeah.
And he's very confident in himself.
Yeah.
And I think that was, and then I was gonna say the ghost, but Martin himself, he looked confident as well.
Yeah, he's always confident too.
But to me, it's just with Michel is like he knows something we don't know.
Hey, and Rivera, he had the flat top, freshly shaved. I was like, oh, he ready. He been waiting for this.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the fight? What are your predictions? Who do you think is gonna win?
Man, you know what? Man, I'm gonna just tell you guys like this. I am so excited for this fight for so many reasons. One of them being I like both fighters. I'm fans of both fighters and their fighting styles. I've been following both fighters, so I'm excited for that. And the fact that they're meeting right now. Both of them are risking their oaths. And, in a boxing era where you don't really see this. Two undefeated, young and hungry fighters getting in there and risking their oath before getting a title shot. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that. And then on top of it, it's a 50-50 fight. What more can you ask for?
Right. And just like Michel said, he goes, this is the best matchup of the year. So let's see, how it is when it comes on. I'm excited to see both of the boxers. Like he said, it's a 50-50 fight. I have in my head who I'm leaning more towards, who I think is going to win the fight. Okay. But what was you?
I was just gonna kind of set the stage. So last time out, we saw Frank Martin go against Jackson Mariñez. And that was a step up fight for Frank Martin. And he did have some trials, but man, he rose to the occasion. And he got the stoppage victory. So that was his previous fight. And then also we saw Michel Rivera fight a similar opponent that they both have in Perez. And so it was, so that's kind of where they came, from before. Michel Rivera in that fight that he took with Perez, he was working out with Ortiz for that Andy Ruiz fight, and they're like, hey, would you like to fight on the card? And he accepted. Yeah. And so it was kind of like a last minute thing, but he took the fight and he dominated. Pretty much pitched a shutout in that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how we got here. But
and I mean, when I first heard about the fight being made, I was like, what? Like, okay, I really didn't expect that fight to be made. Like you said, for them doing it, usually they wait to build it up more when they're later years on. But shit, we'll take it.
We need it. We need this. We need this. So and just to kind of talk about a little about the fighters. So you got Frank Martin. Frank Martin is an athletic, explosive fighter, a southpaw. He's got good defense. He uses the ring well and he pivots. He pivots well, and also when he kind of throws his left hand, he makes sure to get his head off the line, so that right hand isn't there. And then you got Michel Rivera on the other side. He's kind of like he's a boxer puncher. He's got a good jab. He's got a good right hand. He's pretty much he's pretty slick. And both fighters. I'm gonna say it like this: both fighters can box and both fighters can bang. So it's gonna be a good one.
Oh yeah. Damn. I had to really think about each boxer as to who I think is gonna win because, like you said, it's a 50-50 fight.
It's a 50-50.
Michel, he's fast. He got them little hands that he throws. and he's got the height advantage over Martin. And I feel like this is definitely a huge step up for Martin as well. And you know, Rivera has quite a bit more fights than he does. Now, Martin, on the other hand, he really impressed me with his. Again, I love a defensive fighter who still goes in there and bang, like you said. And he knows how to use his defense. He knows how to use his levels down, just fishing for the right punch, and he just knows what to look for in there. And he's got power. He's got, when he throws his punches, you can tell it definitely hurt the opponent. And he can move around the ring very well also. So just kind of based on that, I'm leaning towards Frank Martin to win this fight. I'm definitely leaning over to Frank Martin. I think he's definitely wants to prove a point that, you know, he's ready for these higher elevated opponents. And I just think that based on his power and just his defense, I just think that the nod is going to go towards him. And I'm going to just go, I think it's going to be 10 rounds maybe. And I think it's going to be, going to go to the scorecard.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What do you think? I'm so curious.
Whew, man, you know, like I said, this is a 50-50 fight. You know, I've kind of gone back and forth. Yeah, you kind of talked about the things, but yeah, definitely Rivera, you know, definitely taller, and he actually has the arm reach advantage also. I do think that Frank Martin does have the power advantage. And, you know, he's a more, I would probably say he's a more fundamental fighter. You know, he definitely, I will say he is the more defensive fighter as well. Look at you just waiting to see what I'm going to see.
Who do you think he's going to win?
And, you know, but I will say this, Rivera has been, you know, he has fought the better competition. I do think that both of these are step ups for each other, but I think that it's a much bigger step up for Frank Martin. You know, he did fight Jackson Mariñez, and you know, Jackson Mariñez was a good fighter, but Rivera is better. Rivera is better, and you know, I just keep going back and forth on this fight. You know, I will say another thing about Michel Rivera. You know, he came to the States probably about 3 years ago, and every fight that I've seen him, you know, he's constantly getting better, and it's not, and you know, and it's. Actually, I can say the same thing with Frank Martin too. Both of these fighters are continuing to get better, and just to talk about that, I mean, and Frank Martin, you can't forget, Frank Martin does have the legendary trainer in his corner in Derrick James, aka Trainer of the Year, aka Trainer of the Decade to come, possibly. But so that's why I just kind of go back and forth, and kind of how I see this fight kind of going. I see it kind of starting kind of slow in the beginning, you know, kind of like a chess match, kind of a boxing match. And then, you know, I see it kind of heating up, you know, later in the fight. And I think that, you know, it'll serve Frank Martin well to kind of make it a dog fight. If he makes it a dog fight, I think that would be in his best, you know, that would be best for him. And even after listening to Derrick James talk about the fight, it's, you know, they ask him, they go, you know, kind of, you know, how do you see this fight going? He goes, you know, Michel Rivera is a good boxer. He goes, but this is what Derrick James said. This fight's going to come down to who wants it the most. And when he said that, that made me feel like we coming to fight.
Yeah, and I mean, during the press conference too, I was waiting to hear if anybody was going to say like, okay, I was like, damn, I'm not hearing anybody saying they're going to go for the knockout or anything like that. Yeah. But then I think Brian asked like, hey, you know, so do you feel like, you know, you're going to get the stoppage? Do you see or whatever? And I forgot I think it was Martin that was like, well, you know, that's what we anticipate. So let's see, you know, how it's going to go or whatever. Nothing to take away from Michel Rivera. He's a great boxer. I think it's going to be a good ass fight. I think they're both going to take shots, give shots, and I just think the better man.
Yeah, and you know, it's these fighters are both very hungry. You know, for this opportunity. Michel Rivera, you know, he's made it vocal. You know, been vocal about, you know, how he feels like he's a contender, and he said that Martin is a prospect. He goes, I've got all these fights, and to kind of talk about, so yeah, he's like, man, that's why he's probably feeling very, very confident.
Yeah.
And he knows that this fight, if he wins this fight, this is gonna get him that shot that he wants. He's been wanting Gervonta Davis. So, and Rivera, another thing about Rivera is, I did see him fight. I wasn't able to see too many fights when he fought a southpaw, but I will say this. He surprisingly looked very comfortable when he fought a southpaw in the past. And, the one good thing that he does have that is very effective against a southpaw is a lead right hand. And, there was a lot of, Frank Martin did have some trouble with Marinez at points in the fight, even though he dominated the fight. So I think I'm going to actually go with Michel Rivera.
Okay.
By split decision. By split or majority decision. But, like I said, it's a 50-50 fight.
Oh, okay.
But I never thought I would go against, the Derrick J stable. But, I just think that the experience level is going to play a big factor. Michel Rivera, he's got a really good jab, and he's got a really good right hand. When he's comfortable with the southpaw, the best thing for Rivera in this fight to win this fight is actually to, really focus on boxing from the outside. I think, if he stays on the outside, he can, be able to get a decision because he does, have the advantages in the length. It's going to be interesting though because we already seen, Frank Martin. When that dog came out, when he fought Jackson Marinez, that was a whole nother fighter. He took it to a whole nother level. And so it's going to be interesting to see, how Michel Rivera handles that. But I will say that Michel Rivera has been in there with some punchers. He has been in there with some punchers. I'm not sure if they've been on the level of Frank Martin as far as punching power. But, I have never really seen him hurt. I did see him get dropped. I have seen Michel Rivera get dropped. But, it was kind of like a flash knockdown, and he popped right back up. And, he didn't, he wasn't dazed or everything. And he ended up stopping that fighter who has never been stopped before. So, that just kind of talks about, the heart that he has. And Frank Martin just got just as much heart too, from what we've seen. Because Jackson Marinez, his best round that he had in that fight, after that, Frank Martin just turned up and went to a whole nother level. So, like I said, this is a 50-50 fight. I wouldn't be shocked if any one of them won or if it's a draw. But I'm gonna go with Michel Rivera by split decision or majority decision.
I mean, he is very confident in himself. Like I said, he was talking like he knew something we don't know.
And I'm also going to say this too, though. He has been getting good sparring work. He's been sparring with Edwin De Los Santos. And
well, there you go.
Yeah, and that's probably...
power puncher too.
Yeah, and they've been friends. They've been sparring for a long time. Also, he's got a lot of power. And he's also a southpaw. I mean, we saw what he did with... Jose Rayo Valenzuela.
We ain't got to talk about that. We ain't got to talk about that.
So I definitely think both fighters are prepared. Both fighters continue to get better every fight. They continue to make adjustments. Both of these fighters can counter very, very well. So it's going to be interesting, just how, it just shows that we're just in a firefight, Both, Frank Martin's got knockouts with a pull counter left hand. Then you got Michel Rivera. He got a pull counter right hand that's nasty. So, that's another thing that they both do well. It's just such a 50-50 fight. But as you can tell, we just can't wait. We just can't wait for this fight.
Yeah.
But that's all we got. Please let us know how you see this fight going or who you got. And let us know below. But that's all we got. So thanks for tuning in, y'all.
And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Or talk your shit. And we out.